Previously on the Metacast movie show. To me, when I saw the first Justice League, it was, of course, I had to compare it to Avengers. You can't not, yeah. So I mean, that's exactly what it is. And it's like the MCU is so successful because they get years to develop their characters. The emotional scenes feel so real because you've been with that character for multiple years. Unfortunately, DC tried to rush this. It doesn't build the way that it naturally should. And so when I saw the original Justice League, that's kind of how I felt. That it was like, I know you guys like those Avengers movies, but Batman and Superman are really cool, right? Wouldn't you want them to be in them too? Like, you know, it's not like trying to do something different. It's almost just trying to like do the same thing with characters that may resonate with someone else instead.
Let's dig right in, man. Get that Marvel shovel out.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That is the podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I am one of your co-hosts.
And I'm your other co-host. Oops. That's twice as long as your other co-host for no reason.
I thought we weren't going to brag about our length this episode. He factually is exactly twice as long as me too. We discovered that, and it's neat. But
yeah,
girth is really what matters. Space. Yeah. if you couldn't tell, tonight is the Metacast movie show about Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a 2021 director's cut of a 2017 film. It's a superhero film directed by Zack Snyder, with a screenplay by Chris Terrio and based on characters from DC Comics.
It stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, whose name I just butchered, I think, Jason Momoa, Ray Fisher, and Ezra Miller.
The budget for this movie was an additional $70 million on top of the original $300 million budget. There was no box office run for this. It was released for streaming platforms HBO Max.
The tomato meter rating was 71% with an audience score of 95%.
So, 4 years after the underwhelming theatrical release of the Whedon cut, our second favorite group of film superheroes are finally back in the highly anticipated Snyder cut. This is the fifth film in the DC Extended Universe following Batman vs. Superman. The film follows the team that it's named after, the Justice League, as they try to protect the Earth from a powerful extraterrestrial threat. So I do have to say that this is without a doubt an improvement from the 2017 version. But with that being said, I don't think you can add 2 hours to something and a lot of times not improve it. If you do add 2 hours to something and you don't improve it, then what the fuck did you add to it? So I don't think that it's kind of a low bar to say that they improved on the 2017 one. I think that movie was incredibly underwhelming. So I don't think it was very hard to improve on the theatrical release. I have a major problem with this, and a lot of it comes down to pacing. I'm a big fan of pacing when it comes to a movie. I think that films are designed to be watched from beginning to end. They are designed to have moments call back at certain times. You design a time to moment A to happen, and then X number of minutes goes by, and then moment B can reference moment A, and that works a certain way. When a film is 4 hours long and almost no one watches it from beginning to end, most people take breaks at different times. You don't get to do that. You no longer have a constructed intermission in it, so everyone's experience with it is different. So for that reason, I can't really judge this as a film. This is not a film to me. It is like what they intended to do with it. One of the original intentions was to be a 6-part miniseries, I believe it is. So it's like that to me almost would have been better for this. So it's really hard for me to give this a verdict as just a film in itself. So I guess saying that, I need to be real. This is a director's cut of a movie from 4 years ago. This was released for a pretty specific market. There was a SnyderCut.com website. There was a vocal group that was rallying behind this movie to be released. If this movie was made for you, I'm pretty positive that you've already seen it. So if you are on the fence about watching this, I don't feel like that this movie was made for you, honestly. So for me to give this any sort of verdict, honestly, even though I enjoyed it and I felt like it was a big improvement off of from the 2017 version, I do have to give this a no, just simply because I feel like if you were in the camp that was going to enjoy it, you've already seen it. What's your opinion?
Yeah. So this is actually kind of a weird one for me because I didn't hate the 27 film. It was worse than that. I just had nothing to say about the 2017 film. It's like when people say that depression isn't being really sad, it's actually feeling nothing. Well, that's what that 2017 movie was for me. It was feeling nothing. I was kind of like, that was okay. All right, yeah, Jason Momoa is buff. All right, I'm done. Um, so and like you said, like not only is it impossible to add 2 hours to a film and not make an improvement, it's impossible to not make that movie any better. And I recognize that there was a market for this movie. I know that there was a whole like Snyder movement. I know there's a whole hashtag restore the Snyderverse, which is probably all the people that wanted to see this movie already. I actually had no idea this movie was going to happen whatsoever. And I was surprised when I logged in HBO Max and saw it. I was like, what is this? And that was like maybe a day or two before you were like, hey, should we do an episode in the Snyder Cut? And I was like, no. And here we are. So yeah, I mean, I feel you on the pacing. I actually had a coworker who likes, Star Wars and superhero films and stuff like that, sort of like lay into me for not watching the whole thing all the way through. To which my rebuttal was, on the contrary, sir, I've watched it. I will watch it twice and watch the first one once, and we'll have a 10-hour investment and then do a podcast episode on it. So, but I didn't really think about the pacing, man. You're kind of right about that. It is a little hard to. Someone should come up with a guide about how to best section it. Like where to stop and then where to start it. Like where
Well,
like
I wonder if
which
it's the
section
parts.
should you watch?
Because it was split into those 6 parts where it even goes to a black screen and says, part 1, don't count on it, Batman. It's like, are those I think those were the 6-part episodes that it was supposed to be chopped into.
I guess Zack Snyder probably gave us a guideline for how to do this. So yeah, maybe if you haven't watched it, separate it into pieces. I'm just gonna say for this movie, I have 2 conditions to my verdict. One is if you really, really, really hated the first one, or if you were just completely indifferent to it, or if you just have 4 hours you need to fill up really badly in a row, then my verdict for this one actually is a yes. But those 2 conditions, like if you really hated the one, or you just didn't give a shit, or you really just need to fill up 4 entire hours of time, you won't find another movie that's going to fill that up for you. So you may as well watch this. So
I guess,
this is one of the like weakest yeses I've ever given.
that is that's
like,
fair. Yeah, it is a pretty weak yes.
It's a weak yes. So if you want to hear more about all of this and maybe even a few bits of possible music news, watch the full episode.
Yep. Yeah, so let's get we'll bring Spoiler Terry out. He will ruin a lot of this movie, and yeah, let's get into it. So, okay.
Did I just say music news instead of movie news?
You did say music news, but we could talk about music too.
Oh God, I'm an idiot. Well,
no, honestly, no.
We'll watch the rest.
I think that's one of the best differences between the two: the music choices. Snyder's
agreed.
music choices hit so much harder. The first scene that makes you sad about Superman being dead did not exist in the original theatrical release. There was like a throwaway 30 seconds of some song. The whole like sad slow motion scene with Lois and the song they told us our gods would outlive us. That was brilliantly done. That was an like great setup for that emotion that did not exist at all in the first cut, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, like the sound of Superman dying, like it's a scream heard everywhere kind of thing.
Yep.
And then you see the boxes like awaken, like right after he's dead. And like I'm trying really hard not to compare this one to the 2017 one that I really don't want to do. But
yeah, we kind of have to though, right? Like
Yeah, but so the 2017, the beginning of that was like some weird smartphone thing of like, what do you like best about planet Earth? And then Henry Cavill's like, oh, I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
And then it just goes off. And you're like, and then there's some weird songs like people committing crimes, like
Yep.
petty crimes. Oh no, you stole an apple or some shit. Like, I it was just ridiculous. And
I even have a note in
and
the original section that just says the pacing of this intro feels shitty. That was just like out of the blue, like that's like I was like, yeah, this intro just feels weird.
yeah, it's just garbage because what really needs to happen is you as an audience member need to be put in a place where you understand a world
Yeah.
where there was a Superman and you really need to know that
Yep.
like this is like a million times worse than Freddie Mercury dying. This is way worse than any sports star dying. Like Eddie Van Halen, I don't know who, Macho Man Randy Savage. Like people were upset when those people died. Princess Diana, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something much more that like we can't even get.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
like this otherworldly symbol of every possible kind of hope in a world where hope isn't actually stupid.
Yeah.
Because there's a Superman.
Well, and it's also like it's not only does the Hope die, he actually is a force of justice and good too. So it's not only the symbolism dying, but the actual just like what he did day to day as far as fighting crime being missing as well. So yeah, there and like yeah, the tone of the intro to the Snyder Cut is great. It really sets the stage for you seeing this actual shift in the world, and like you said, seeing the mother boxes actually awaken at that moment and everything. That being missing from the first one. Okay, so I watched the original cut one time, and same with you. I didn't hate it, but it did not at all stand out to me to where I wanted to see it again at all over the past 4 years. It made such a little mark on me that I did not at all remember the mother boxes being part of the storyline. No part of like until I thought that was redone for the Snyder Cut. When I went back and watched I was like, oh, I don't even remember them being in that. Like, yeah, so it was like that storyline was so rushed and so barely touched on in the 2017 version that it's like, yeah, the Snyder Cut is it really fleshes out that storyline and actually like makes it mean something.
Yeah, it was the same for me. Like there were things I couldn't even remember. Like I just thought I was like, was Steppenwolf in the original?
Yeah. He definitely looks a lot cooler in this one too. He like the redesign with the visual effects was great. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I think that I saw a couple of concept drawings, and I think a lot of this was close to what they originally envisioned him as.
Okay.
But I think maybe because I know I did some homework. I'm not particularly familiar with a lot of, because most of my exposure to comics and heroes have been like cartoons and movies.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm not someone that ever really like read a lot of graphic novels.
Okay.
I mean I've read a few here and there. But Steppenwolf apparently in this version is not like comic accurate at all.
Yeah.
Like he looks nothing like the Steppenwolf from the comics. But you know that this is a problem that happens all the time. Is how does this graphic drawing translate to a movie?
Yep.
And that's something that you always need to figure out is how do we make this look the best in a movie? And I think that Steppenwolf, he looks menacing, he looks frightening, he looks domineering, and there's even little tiny differences, like when he gets the box from the Amazon. Is it Amazonians or the Amazons?
I call them Amazonians in my notes. Now you got me questioning.
Because Steppenwolf calls Wonder Woman Amazon as if I'll say Amazonian because that makes sense. When he has the arrow fired at him, in the original he slaps the arrow.
Yep.
In this version he catches it.
Yep, and it's cooler catching it definitely.
There's something much it's something much scarier about like the fact that he grabs it and it's not like a quick thing. Like it sticks with you that
Yep.
Like one arrow is something that can't do anything, and then after that, like he gets all the arrows in him, and he basically just like flexes his armor or whatever, and they break.
That scene was so much better in the Snyder Cut. That whole battle was really good in the re-release.
See, there's a lot of criticisms that people have about the differences because some of the scenes are out of touch.
Yeah.
And a lot of it seems like not so great. Like the fact that the warrior women don't really get much of an opportunity to be on screen. Like, it's like bank, like snap your finger over. It's like, oh, I got the box. I'm gonna get out now. There's no big epic fight, and even that show him your fear line. I don't think that's even in there.
Yeah,
I don't think it's in the original at all.
No, I don't. It wasn't.
Which,
no.
It's like the whole point of them, of the Amazonians, is to be as like badass as possible. They're basically a gang of all female Spartans.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's like, it kind of pissed me off that they didn't really get an opportunity. And even Mira, I'm pretty sure that when he goes to Atlantis, Mira doesn't put up as much of a fight in the original cut. There's more footage of her actually fighting Steppenwolf. Because in the other one, it's like, oh no, Mira's getting beat up. It's the Aquaman here to rescue you.
Yep.
Or even like, okay, the scene where Cyborg and Flash are digging up dead Superman.
Yep.
The fist bump scene.
Yeah.
And like Barry even says something about it being like racially charged or whatever. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like,
it's just
like,
weird.
Okay,
yeah.
this would have been done in like 1991, maybe even before that. Like, why? And so they took that shit out completely, and then it's some weird dialogue about like, is Wonder Woman into younger men? And it's like, well, she's 5,000 years old.
That was a good line. That was a funny line. It's like Barry, she's 5,000 years old. Every guy's a younger guy. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
You know, there's and I was kind of messing with you before the episode. I said that I hated this movie. I didn't hate it. I mean, I felt emotionally involved in this movie, and I did not feel that way in the original at all.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Which is it's really cool to see that, like, okay, so one part of it bothered me that there weren't reshoots for this, because you could see stuff that was edited in that, like, you could tell the actor wasn't where they thought they were going to be in the Snyder cut. Like I think right at the beginning, there's a very obvious one of Lex Luthor in the water wearing a trench coat, and it's like you could tell that Luthor standing. The way that Jesse Eisenberg acted that, he was just standing in front of a green screen, and I don't think his direction was, you are in chest deep water at all. And then it's like, then he gets, CG'd in, and it's like the way he's just moving, it's like, it does not look like someone in chest deep water whatsoever. Same thing with a lot of the Amazonians jumping on horses and riding away. So much of that you could tell was just green screen and then like very flat. Like, all right, now we need them to like go into the distance. But so it was using footage that was shot and then try to use it in like a different way. So it's like, it definitely would have looked better if they could have done reshoots. With that being said, of course, I know that they're not going to get together the actors from 4 years later and be like, all right, guys, we need some reshoots for, but there were some of those scenes where it's like the VFX were just almost kind of cringy, where it's like, oh, that doesn't look right.
Oh yeah, there were parts, my understanding is that they only had to shoot one scene, and that was the one at the end with Joker.
Yep.
That was the only one they actually shot. But there's the story scene with where Diana is telling Bruce about, like, what happened with the boxes and where they came from, the whole story with them.
Yes.
The one part of that sort of story sequence, when you see the computer graphics, like, to me that was cringy, just because it was oh my god, really good actor, supporting role in House of Cards. Hold on.
Is it Robin Wright?
She's yes, but she's in there.
Yep.
But it's like not exactly her. Like, it's very like computered up her.
Yeah, because she was in Wonder Woman 1984. So it's like they like threw her into Yep.
And then they sort of weaved a couple live action parts into that.
Yep.
Which I don't know really where those came from, but and I remember watching the original, and so Steppenwolf in the original didn't have enough of a presence. He wasn't menacing enough to be the only like antagonist. The one in the Snyder cut, the way he's portrayed, is menacing enough to be by himself, but he's still not. Like, Darkseid is there.
Yes.
And because like
Darkseid being missing from the original one is a big lack, in my opinion. Like,
it's it's like it's wrong. Like there's no other word for that. It's
Yep.
wrong because what Steppenwolf is one of the elite, Darkseid's elite or whatever they
Mm-hmm.
call them, and it's weird because Steppenwolf shouldn't be doing really anything without constantly having Darkseid be the motivation. And I
Yep.
believe that he says for Darkseid one time in the original,
Yep.
and that's it.
Yep.
But in the scene where it's like, I was like, oh, Darkseid, Darkseid. I was like, awesome. And I just got excited. Like
Yeah.
because I almost forgot his name. Because I saw him and I was like, it's that guy. Oh yeah, it's Darkseid.
I got excited too, and I'm not a DC person. Like it just means that it was constructed
Really?
well. Yeah, yeah, it was just like the way that they did that scene was cool. But yeah, but like you're saying, it's like okay, I've tried to go as far as I can without doing the comparisons, but you almost can't, you cannot not
All of them.
compare this movie to like Infinity War or Endgame or anything. So it's like, of
Oh
course,
no, that comparison.
well, you have to. So like in those movies, it makes sense that like Thanos is the big bad guy. The first Avengers movie, you had Loki, that was the bad guy that was talking back to Thanos. That a lot more would like be the, you know, Steppenwolf Darkseid relationship. It doesn't make sense to have the movie, if it's the only Justice League movie, be like the original, the 2017 release, be Steppenwolf by himself with no Darkseid, as if he is the big bad guy with no like other menacing threat. It did not make sense, and he was not, like you're saying, he was not menacing enough on screen for that to make sense. It was just very, very lacking in the villain department, which that's what DC is supposed to be good at. Like DC, the whole reason people like DC normally are the villains. Like that is DC's real strong point.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a whole list of really good ones. I mean, I'm not necessarily what you would call like a DC guy or a Marvel guy, even for
Mm-hmm.
really, for that matter. I just like good stories, and superheroes are cool.
Yep.
You know, and that's one thing that, because like it's funny. I thought that I was gonna try not to make any comparisons to the 2017, but I can't help it. Like I don't
Yeah.
think anybody can.
Yep.
But you know, I think that to make the comparison to Marvel, I don't think that it's completely crazy for you to make that comparison. I'm not going to tell you that it's an incorrect thing to do, but the thing, the sort of contrast that I would make between the two is that you look at Marvel and you have like the heroes are just kind of like they're too clean. Like nothing sticks to them really, you know?
Mm. I do think that oh, your Discord cut out. Fuck. Yeah, your Discord totally cut out. Oh, that was it.
Did you somehow end up in the wrong
It moved me to the
audio
AFK channel? Yeah, that's what that was. So I was telling you that your Discord cut out, but no, that was 100% me. That for some reason I just got sent to the AFK channel on my own server. Fuck that.
Weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
For the
Sorry.
record, he's at his keyboard. So, but the thing is that you got all these like super clean, like very like, you know, Captain America, for God's sake. I mean, like none of the characters in Marvel to me are that dark.
That was a
They never
big
get
missed
any place.
opportunity, because in the comics there was a huge storyline. Like one of the biggest parts of Tony Stark's character was his alcoholism. And
Well, yeah,
Robert
I mean-
Downey Jr. had a huge problem with substance abuse. I don't understand why they didn't flesh that out in the movies. Like that would have been perfect for Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark to play a character that had a huge alcohol problem. And like they kind of touch on it a little bit with a few shots of him, like, you know, like, but it doesn't become a thing that it was in the comic books. But yeah, like you're saying, like that would have been much more interesting to have a darker side to that character. But I do think they probably try to go a little more PG than PG-13 with a lot of that stuff, and that's probably what kept that.
I agree. They want to make him more of like a hero type, you know.
Yeah.
But even then, like I mean, he drinks a lot. Like, okay, I mean, like that's bad, but it's like it's normal people shitty, you know.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people will have to deal with that, but I just think that DC is generally a darker kind of.
Yes.
The vibe of DC is darker. Even with Superman, there's still the contrast between so many of the villains, like you were saying, like they do villains well, and
Yep.
I think because Superman's in the DC universe, they have to,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Green Arrow is super dark. I
Mhm.
think Bruce Wayne tries really hard not to be, but I mean, he is. The darkness is like what Batman thrives on.
Yeah.
He actually, in the
He is
shadows.
literally the Dark
So
Knight. Like
it's
they
like,
call him that. Yeah.
so in one way, I think that it's a little unfair to compare Marvel and DC, mainly just because the tone, I say, generally is very different. But
Yeah.
they are superheroes and they're in the superhero business, and they both done movies.
Yeah. But that's what,
But
like, I have to compare just as far as like they're competing over a market share. Like whether or not the tone is different or
that's
the
true.
art and everything, it's like just as far as like looking at
Yeah,
the art, they are both competing over a certain market share.
yeah. It's like comparing one couch to another. Like they both sell couches.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, who cares if this couch is darker than the other? I mean, actually darker, but um, you know, I like that there's less of the comic relief stuff in
Yeah.
this cut.
Yep.
Like the weird the weird kind of, I feel like when they put that, like the family that's like near the power plant where
Yeah.
Steppenwolf is making like the base.
Yep.
I feel like they just kind of threw them in there.
Yeah. It was kind of strange.
Like the degree of silly that Barry is like a little too much. Like he's there in this version,
Yeah.
but in the original, like when he pushes I'm assuming they're Slavic, some kind of Slavic family, in the truck to safety, and he says Dostoevsky,
Yeah.
and then runs off. Like it's funny because it's so ridiculous.
Yep.
But
That's
like
that's
when
the
he
thing
and
is
Superman, like
the lack of consistency bothers me. It is fine to have comic relief. I think that a lot of movies do that well, and a lot of, again, like I have to make the Marvel comparison, but it's like when they do comic relief, it fits a lot better in my opinion. It sounds like something that character would say a lot of the times, and it's just like this movie. A lot of it felt like, for instance, okay, if you were writing dialogue for a Marvel movie and you think of a funny line, it's like, oh, who would say this line? That sounds like something maybe Thor would say. And then it works into the dialogue and it works. Versus like this feels like, all right, we have a funny line. All right, that means that Barry has to say it. And it's like it doesn't even really fit a lot of the times, like even his character or why it would make, like the whole him getting left on the roof with Commissioner Gordon when the other ones disappear, and it's like, oh wow, they really just flat vanish, don't they? Like it's funny because like, oh haha, the really fast guy got left, didn't he? Like it. But when you stop to think about it for a second, it's like, well, why does this make any sense at all? Like,
yeah. It's the same thing you said with inflection.
yeah,
The fast guy got left. There are some things that you look at in there that I think are kind of weird. But okay, so I really really hate the scene in the original where Arthur is sitting on the little the lasso.
I loved that scene. I thought that was awesome.
I don't, because I think there's another scene that does something better for the character. Because
Okay.
it's almost like they're trying to show some like sort of quote, I guess, softer side of Arthur.
Yeah.
The scene where Arthur asks Barry how Victor's doing. It's like he wants to be alone. And then he says, we're asking a kid who just lost his father to go up against the most powerful machines in the universe. It's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And then Barry says, I thought you didn't care.
Yeah.
And then all Arthur says is, I never said that. And
Yeah.
just walks off.
Yeah. No,
Like,
that is better.
that's it's a much better way to show his complexity. Now, I thought the scene was really funny. Like
Yeah.
when they did it, I thought it was hilarious. But until I like watched these movies, in very close proximity to each other, I didn't realize that scene was funny. But to show a softer, more human side of Aquaman, it just made more. It made more sense the way that they did it.
Yep.
Now,
And
honestly,
it fit the tone of the film better too.
Agree. Yeah, it definitely did. Yeah, because there's some stuff where I mean, there's a couple, because a DC movie, I feel like the humor should be a little more dead, like a little more deadpan, a little more dry, just like very quick delivery, not so whimsical, you know?
That's I think where, well, like in my notes, I'm pointing out the contrast is what's bothering me, and it's not like the comedic moments themselves are bad. It's that when you want the tone of the rest of it to be darker, the contrast of the almost like stupid comedic moments is sometimes just like it takes me out of it. It's immersion breaking in that, like, I feel like it almost detracts from the art at that point rather than it should add to it.
I agree, 100%. Yeah, I mean, and it's like maybe this is silly, but I feel like if you put Willem Dafoe in a movie, you just have to take it more seriously.
Yeah. I've completely forgot he was in that too. That was another one that it's like when he showed back on stream, I was like, oh yeah, he was in this? Holy shit.
His little tiny role was pretty cool. You know, I like that there's a lot of gaps you don't get to see. Like, you're not exactly sure how Superman gets there at the end. You don't know exactly kind of what happens before Arthur goes back to Atlantis. I don't believe it shows the scene of Steppenwolf pulling the Atlanteans out of the ocean onto the beach and like interrogating them. I don't think that was in the original.
I don't think so either, yeah.
Because it shows more brutality to the character. It makes you dislike Steppenwolf more, and it gives you more of a desire as someone in the audience to see something happen, like to Aquaman to do something about it.
Well, and a lot of that was fleshing out the Mother Box storyline that just wasn't really there in the first one. Like, I mean, it was, but it was like it was so quickly glossed out. That's another thing too, is like the whole feeling of this one. Again, I hate to compare it to Infinity War, but you kind of have to. Like when both of them are big bad guy chasing down, you know, trying to collect pieces of something and assemble them, it's pretty similar. Like in Marvel we got 6 gems, and this one we get 3 boxes, but it's like there is this in Infinity War, there is this sense of dread every time Thanos gets another gem. You realize he is getting more powerful. You realize that when he has all 6, it is game over. Like in this one, there was it is kind of weird that it's like Steppenwolf assembles the 3 boxes, and that's supposed to be a big moment, but it's just kind of like, oh well, now we have to fight him. And it's like there it seemed like it was like, well, what's the big threat of the boxes? They were assembled, they were trying to unite, and it seemed like it was like, well, the Justice League basically at the entire time had the ability to stop him as long as they were there. Like, I don't know. It felt kind of weak that there was no like, yeah.
I do see what you're saying, because there was always this feeling in Infinity War that they could lose. You always felt like they could, and you almost felt like the writers might even write it that way.
And then those crazy bastards did, yeah.
Yeah, and once again, like, you know, you're always talking about immersion, and for me, Infinity War, I was so immersed in that story, I wasn't even thinking about what the writers were thinking.
Yeah, yep.
I was like, this is so real, and they could actually lose because this is real life.
Yep. The only thing that broke me from immersion in Infinity War was having to pee in the theater, because I saw it in the theater and it was a 3-hour movie, which is like, imagine seeing this in the theaters.
I mean, I both broke my immersion and increased my immersion by just going right there in my pants.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, whatever, I can't miss this. And
hell
just
yeah, brother.
Went at it. Yeah, that's what you do in the theater, man. You don't get up for no piss breaks. I'll do it live. Yeah, I do. Yeah, exactly. I do see what you're saying, though. I really, because when in this movie you have a tiny moment where you think, oh my God, they can lose. But in the Marvel films, you had to wait for a whole other film to come out. Like, that was how much of a hanger that was.
Now, with that being said, apparently, according to an interview that I have read, basically Snyder's plan for the 3 movies kind of followed that similar arc, where there was going to be, at the end of Justice League 2, the team was going to lose. And basically what you see near the end, that future where Joker's even on the team with them, and Cyborg's like, oh God, he found us. And it's Superman, and Superman's got the Omega glowing eyes and everything. That is supposed to be from basically Justice League 2. That was going to be like near the end of that movie where they lose, where Darkseid wins, Superman kills the rest of the team and everything. And that vision then that we see at the end there was from that. Then there is supposed to be a big change. I mean, similar to what happens in the Marvel universe in the third movie then. I forget how he Cyborg works on an equation to use the mother boxes to jump Flash back in time. And that's actually apparently in the first in Batman versus Superman, where Bruce sees Flash coming, like he says, Lois Lane's the key, and he's like coming from the future to tell him that's supposed to be from like the third movie, and it has to do with like Batman letting Lois Lane die caused the failure of the second movie. So eventually he sacrifices himself instead to save the world, just like Iron Man does at the end of it. Like it really is like the exact beat in everything of the
proof Tony Stark has a heart.
Yep.
Wow, kill the rich guy. Wow, that's why. Yeah, okay, yeah. So okay. So here's the movie news part. I'm very confused because I have both heard that Warner Brothers have officially denied that there will be any other Justice League films, and at the same time hinted that there might be.
According
I don't
to
know what's happening.
So like okay, so according, I mean, we are right now in the throes of it possibly changing, and if it is changing, it would be because of the success of the Snyder Cut. So up until a month ago or so, you know, the official stance from DC was that there was going to be no Justice League 2, Justice League 3. Those movies were totally shelved. Same with some of the other things that this hints at the end of this movie. There were a lot of planned DC movies that got completely shelved. Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 are some of those. Now, with that being said, Snyder Cut basically should have never come out either. This came out because of fans and people in the industry and Snyder himself rallying to say like, hey, let me get my vision out, which I have to say, I love that he did. I do think that it is really cool that there are streaming platforms that this was able to come out. However, I can't say that it is impossible that the success of this would cause DC to change their plans and possibly, you know, do different movies or something. But yeah, as of right now, it still officially stands that Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 are completely shelved. There's no plans for those to be real movies.
Yeah, it seems very possible that because I did read in a few places that HBO Max subscription spiked.
Yeah.
Like just right before this came out. So, I mean, they might recognize that there's some money to be made and then maybe go with it. But who knows? I mean, and who knows if Zack Snyder even wants to do it? And even then, how many of the other actors are going to want to be involved?
Snyder almost definitely does not. He has expressed multiple times that he is just interested in moving on from it. And that's even why he did that interview where he talked about his plans for Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 as a way of kind of, you know, putting that to bed. It's, you know, now at this point, literally, if he were to do those two movies, he's not going to use the storylines that he had planned. He has not only spoiled those, but they are literally like almost beat for beat the storylines of Infinity War and Endgame. And DC, I don't think DC would do that. They just like, you can't at this point be like, all right, we're really just reskinning the Avengers trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the way they do it, it's going to be. It'll be a ripoff. I mean, it won't be any. There's no other thing to call it. Yeah. You know, I do feel like that there, in general, in this film, there was just more drama everywhere.
Yeah, a lot more emotion, a lot more drama. Just yeah.
There's tension, there's suspense, and even the scene where everybody like goes to rescue the Star Labs people, and then Victor like sees his dad. Like that scene, the kooky like dialogue between Bruce and Barry, where he's like, "Save one, you'll know what to do." Like, it's just so.
I'm so glad that wasn't in that. Well, so it makes perfect sense that couldn't be in the Snyder Cut, because in the Snyder Cut we have already seen Flash be a hero at that point. So
he saved.
I saved the chick in the car. Was that
supposed to be Iris West?
Oh, I have no idea.
That he saves?
I have no idea. That would be interesting.
I just wondered about that because the first thought I had when I.
Yeah, it Yeah. Okay. I just Googled Iris West in the DC Extended Universe, and it does. Yeah, biography rescued by Barry Allen after leaving a dog daycare. Iris struggled to. Yeah, that is supposed to be her. Interesting. That's cool. That's really cool. Um. Oh my God, did it do it again? Jesus Christ.
Out.
Yeah, I need to figure this out. It just moved me to the AFK channel again. I have no idea why it's doing this. I'm definitely not AFK.
Oh, dude, that is Iris.
Yeah, that's what I was saying the entire time I was in the AFK channel. Apparently, I googled it, and yeah, it's definitely her. Yeah, that's really cool. Yep, good catch.
Kiersey Clemens as yeah, and it's cool because he's in like the whole Speed Force, and even the song they're playing is like Iris and Barry's love story just unfolds right there.
But what doesn't make sense from the original is even though they didn't show us that, we know that he is a hero saving people. We see Bruce in his lair where he has he has a suit that is made out of the stuff from the space shuttle because he does such competitive ice day. Like it has like tons of marks on it where he has been using it. And then all of a sudden he's too scared to do anything. And a lot of the, like some things just didn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like Barry's the comic relief idiot. We have to make him a novice. Like okay, yeah. There's so much about this that's so much better. And I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Even the way that Superman gets to them, like he goes to Bruce Wayne's place, sees Alfred, and Alfred is like, "Oh, he said you'd come." Speaking of which, Jeremy Irons, dude, who plays Alfred,
yes, did a great job.
I think as an actor, he might outclass everyone in this film, with the exception of crap, what's his name? He did the guy who played Martian Manhunter.
Oh,
he was in The Matrix.
He was in
Hendrix.
He was also in, Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. He's been in like the other movies leading up to this one as well.
But was Martian in those?
Well, he's not named that in those, but that he's another character, and that's why he even says like I've been known by different names and I've taken different forms. It's like he was supposed to be General. What is his name? He was General General Sandwick in Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel. Yeah.
The actor's name is Harry Lennox.
Okay.
But like I don't know. Maybe he doesn't outclass everybody. There's actually a lot of really good actors in here. I mean,
that's actually
Gal.
That's one of the things that was really cool about that little teaser right there is apparently Snyder wanted that to be the Green Lantern, not Martian Manhunter. He wanted Green Lantern to show up at the very end, and he wanted it to be John Stewart's Green Lantern, not like Hal whatever. I forget. Ryan Reynolds played the Hal whatever. I forget his name is. Apparently the studio said no, which is hilarious that this is supposed to be Snyder's vision without the studio ruining it, and it's literally like he wanted there to be a certain Easter egg that the studio said no, and he had to use Martian Manhunter instead. But it's still cool. It still lands a certain way. It's funny that like it's almost the original whole team with Martian Manhunter being there. It's literally like it's the original team, but instead of Green Lantern, there's Cyborg, I guess. But it's like it's 6 out of 7. It's pretty close. But I do think it would have been hilarious. Imagine that Easter egg at the end, but instead it's Ryan Reynolds as the Green Lantern.
That would be fucking hilarious. And then Deadpool shows up and the universe implodes.
Yep.
But I'm sure you noticed, I'm sure you noticed the Ryan Choi thing.
Yeah, Adam. Yep.
Adam. Is that Adam at the end? Like there's a character in the back corner of one of the shots in the scene with Joker in it.
Oh, I never noticed that.
I'm not sure who it is.
You know what? I did not notice that at all. So if it's supposed to be, possibly, but yeah, I did not catch that. And how did you feel about that Joker scene there?
Okay. Well, the major problem I have is in this post-apocalyptic world, where the hell did he find green hair dye and makeup?
That's just who he is. That's just part of his. That's just his real hair color.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
He just has to. Okay, he just has to be that way.
Yeah.
So the way that they played it, because I didn't hate the Suicide Squad Joker.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike his take on it. The problem is that you're always going to be compared to other people's work. And,
Yeah.
you know,
100%.
I think everybody is so hung up, and for good reason. Everyone is so hung up on Heath Ledger's performance of Joker. And it's also romanticized a little bit because Heath Ledger lost his life.
Yeah.
He wasn't there to accept the award that he got that year. So, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be romanticized, and I'm not saying that Heath Ledger's death isn't tragic. It certainly was and still is. But I tried really hard not to compare Jared Leto, English, to Heath Ledger. I tried to think of it as it's his own character, and I like the way that he plays it because I have this feeling about Joker that he doesn't think there's anything dark or sinister about anything he does. I think he just like does shit and he like finds it amusing, and he just figures everybody else must think this is funny because why would anybody be different than me? You know, and that's kind of part of his narcissism, I guess. I don't know. So I like the fact that he played it so like, you know, kooky. You know, and some of the stories about, you know, sending the boy wonder to do a man's job or whatever he says, that there's all this story there that you didn't know about, of things that could have happened in the past, because this is 20 years
with Harley Quinn dying and everything. So yeah, they mentioned a lot of things that happened. Yeah.
And you know, the I just love the part where he says, she said that when I kill you, and make no mistake, I will fucking kill you. Like, there's nothing more fun than hearing Batman say the F word.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, yes. Yeah. Like, I thought it was a fun little scene. I mean, the thing though, another problem I have is, why the fuck are you two sitting over here like having a dick measuring contest when Superman could be coming to kill you at any moment?
Yep. See, I thought the scene was cool. I thought that it was, just like Snyder said in an interview where he was talking about that scene, it was what a lot of people wanted from the DC Extended Universe. They never got to see Ben Affleck's Batman and Jared Leto's Joker like interact at all, really. Like, so it is cool, but that scene felt like what it was as tacked on fan service. It did not feel like it slot in naturally at all. It felt like it could have been a standalone 5-minute YouTube video that was dropped and did not need to be tried to shoehorn. It was not even shoehorned into the plot at all. It was literally just a, like, you know, either dream or vision that Bruce was having in his bed. So it's literally like, yeah, it just felt like it was like, we need to do this. The fans want to see this. How can we make this happen? Like, it just didn't feel natural. It felt way too forced, but.
Yeah, which, I mean, even in movies that we've liked, we've both criticized any kind of dream mechanic.
Yeah. Yep.
And that sort of, I don't know, kind of bothered me a little bit. Because I was very puzzled. Did you notice, and this is weird, that the Batman mask was not covering Bruce's nostrils in that scene?
Now that you say that, I can kind of picture it.
That
is kind of weird.
I'm not really sure why they did it like that, but I like, it is fun hearing Joker call him Bruce.
Yeah.
And the fact that apparently they've got some Joker card that's the symbol of their truce, I guess, and that if it's torn up, then they're just gonna beat each other up or whatever.
It was a cool scene. But
I feel like they crammed so fucking much into that little dialogue though.
Yeah. Yep. There was a lot about this movie that was just kind of like weak to me. Like, okay, so with how much I enjoyed some stuff, and now when you do a movie like this, you have to be formulaic with it. I don't think you can do it in a way that isn't basically like a formula. So I'm not going to pick on the fact that like every character had their like set up hero moment where they had their intro scene of like, oh, here's them saving someone, here's what they can do. Like they have to do it that way. That makes sense. But with that being said, why was Cyborg so much weaker than everyone else's? that whole like, was I supposed to give a shit that he's a high school football champion? Like, like literally everyone else's hero scene. Like it shows Diana saving an entire group of people in a bank. It shows Flash saving this woman from a car crash. It shows like everyone else is them doing something great versus like Cyborg. It's like he got a touchdown at a high school football game, and then you hear an anecdotal story about he hacked into their computers and changed his friend's grade. It's like he ends up being, in Snyder's version, this big important character that I'm not complaining. I think that his arc in the story was great and everything, but it's just for what he was, that intro was like seemed so weak.
Yeah, they even mentioned him being like a certified genius or something like that. I think that, like, I don't know that a lot of it was on purpose, because like that they purposely made him kind of weak. I mean, he's able to pretty much interact with any piece of technology he wants to. I mean, he can talk to them. I think he's made more powerful in this film by a lot, but Cyborg is also in this weird transition period too. He's just getting used to being this thing. He is just now, it's almost a coming of age for him.
Yeah.
Because he's just now figuring out he's not a monster.
Yeah.
Like there's a line at the end where the Unity is like taunting him. And they say that they can fix everything and that we can all be together again. And
when he's
he
like
says,
in
I'm
that,
not broken.
Yeah, when he's like in that dark plane kind of like, that was a cool. I liked that. That was neat. Yeah.
Yeah, and when he says I'm not broken and I'm not alone, I think that that's him coming of age there. And I think that if they, and I thought that there was plans to do a Cyborg film after this, I thought, and I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, but I was hoping that they'd allow him to sort of come into his own in this and then make another movie where he's, because I've always sort of thought of him as Robot Superman.
So DC has a big problem with that though, and I think you pointed out great by calling him that. Superman himself is way too overpowered. Like you were talking about earlier, like the villains have to be great because Superman is like literally like OP. Like in this movie, the whole fucking movie is waiting for Superman to show up and beat up the bad guy. This is not Justice League versus Steppenwolf. This is Justice League trying to bide time for Superman to come in and carry them to victory. Like that felt kind of weird. So when you're talking about that, like the way they set up Cyborg to be in this, when his father's talking to him through the tape recorder and he's telling him about the powers that he has and everything, it's like dude is effectively like a god on planet Earth. If he has all of the like, so what movie can you make interesting when your heroes are this overpowered? Like when you literally have Superman and Cyborg that can do god level things, it's like, all right, so you have to, so the evil then has to be ratcheted up, and you eventually just have this arms race of like you get to just Omega level powered shit like very easily. But
yeah, that is one thing, like whenever people want to compare superheroes, like when they talk about Superman, I'm like, he's bored.
Yeah.
Like, I'm bored. Like he can do anything and everything and nothing can hurt him. And oh no, green glowy stones or some shit. And like, oh no, doomsday, whatever. Like, that is one thing that's a little annoying is, and like there's an Aquaman type character on that show. Is it The Boys? I only watched a few episodes. I couldn't get into it.
Okay.
But they make fun of that. The whole idea that Aquaman's like, whatever, there's a problem with a sea urchin or some shit. Like, I mean, like, what are you going to do? Like, water guy. There's this weird contrast between like these super overpowered characters and these really kind of lame ones.
Yep.
Which
I think they do that. I feel like a Marvel fanboy in this episode, but in the Marvel movies, how they obviously point out that like Natasha and Clint are kind of way out of their league. They're too like they're very well trained humans, but they're too effectively normal humans trying to go neck and neck with like superheroes.
That's another thing. Back to the point you made about Flash getting left by everybody. There's a scene in one of the Marvel films that makes sense, where Clint, who can't fly, is like, they're in the middle of a fight and everyone does their flying thing and he's like, seriously? Oh, and he like takes his like bow and has to like run to where everybody else is.
Yes.
Like that makes sense though, because Clint can't fly.
That is exactly what I meant about the writing, where it was like they had a funny idea and it's like, okay, what character does this make sense for? Rather than in the DC writing, it literally seems like, oh, here's a funny idea, it has to be Barry. Like it just, yeah, it I don't know, it just doesn't fit.
And I did kind of like the fact that they did, for a moment, bring some attention to Bruce being, well, Bruce, just a dude in a suit.
Yeah.
When Flash asks him, "What's your superpower?" and he just looks at him and says, "I'm rich." Like, that's the kind of humor that should be in a DC movie.
Yes. Yep.
He just looks him dead in the fucking eyes and goes, "I'm rich,"
Yep.
and then just starts driving the car. Like, that is what that should have been like. And that's maybe the one slightly humorous line that they gave Bruce. What?
But not only did they do that well in the humor way, but then later in the movie where they show him trying to sacrifice himself because he realizes that he literally is just the man in the suit, and the superheroes save him as a team, like, and by ignoring the plan, like, that is a then serious way of echoing that same sentiment. And like, yeah, I thought it was actually done in a great way. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways this movie could have been better, but there's so many more that it could have been worse in, I think.
And it did get the benefit of, okay, so this movie basically got to beta test, right? Like, it released a 2017 theatrical version. It got to look at everyone's complaints and then had 4 years to fix all of those bad reviews. So it is, it is kind of like we were talking earlier, it has to be better. You can't release one version of the movie, listen to people's bad reviews of it, and then not do better 4 years later.
Yeah, I mean, it would be impossible not to learn something, right?
So can I put out one of my biggest, like, I have a huge plot hole that I have not seen anyone else talk about this, and I do not understand. This seems glaringly obvious to me. Okay, so in the arc of this movie, what happens a long, long time ago was there was a fight with Darkseid on some random planet. The people of that planet defend the planet, and they leave the mother boxes there because Darkseid gets, and this is the planet that has anti-life on it, and they leave the mother boxes there. How then, later, when Steppenwolf shows up on this planet, he finds 2 mother boxes before he realizes this is the same planet with anti-life on it? I thought the fact that the mother boxes were there was the whole point, that anti-life was there. Like, that, I thought those were a 1-to-1, like, equivalency, that, like, of course the planet with the anti-life equation on it is the one with the mother boxes.
That is something I think I briefly thought about the second time round, but so much time has passed since I saw that scene because the movie's so damn long. Yep. I think I thought about that for a moment too, because if they knew that's where the mother boxes were, anti-life was there in the little clip that they did of Darkseid getting himself hacked up by an axe. There is another,
which was
I thought you were
very similar to Thanos getting hit by the axe at the end of Infinity War. Like, literally, like, I mean, even the camera angle and everything too. Like, yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody on YouTube that's edited together lots of hilarious comparisons like that.
Darkseid saying, "You should have gone for the head."
Dude. In one scene, Darkseid's just wearing the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
It just shows up on his hand. But there was one thing that I thought was kind of weird, and I thought that might have been where you were going with it. But I mean, that is a fair point. Like, they'd have to be pretty stupid to not know that anti-life was on the same planet.
Unless you somehow assumed that the mother boxes went from that planet to another one in the but that it just doesn't make sense. Like, to me, it just it seemed like as soon as you found the first one, you knew that was the anti-life planet. But yeah, that just seemed weird to me.
I wonder if that's just some way to, like, I don't know. It seems like they did it for Steppenwolf's arc.
Yeah.
And that's maybe it. But there's at the very end, when the mother boxes are destroyed, and I forget his name, the Skeletor looking guy. That's one of Darkseid's elite.
Was it Desaad? I think, yeah.
And he says the thing about, what do we do now that the mother boxes are gone? And then Darkseid's like, we'll have to use the old ways, like, ready the Armada. Like, old ways? Well, you haven't had the mother boxes in how long?
Yeah, I don't...
Like, how is this the old way? Like,
that does seem very... Yeah, The old so that means that they've had no way for the past however long since the mother box. They've just been doing nothing. That's another thing that makes absolutely no sense is in the lore of the movie, the parademons come from Darkseid taking over a planet and the Unity creating like that reforms the planet into Apocalypse, basically makes all of the inhabitants into parademons. So the entire time since they've lost the mother boxes, have they been creating no new parademons? Are they running low? Like that's another thing that made no sense. It seems like their entire engine of like recreating their army and like and you know, propagating their species has just been gone for the past however long.
Yeah, eventually you do, because at the end where he's like ready there a monitor, there's like a shitload of them. You're like, where did these guys come from?
Yeah,
it's like, you know, because if you're taking over worlds and you don't have the boxes, well, I mean, you would. Yeah, there's a lot of shit in here that just doesn't make sense.
Unless all parademons are supposed to just be in eternal, basically, like they've all been living like. I mean, if he does just have one standing army that has been dwindling in size for the past like 100,000 years or whatever, okay, but yeah, it does seem strange. So another thing too that felt really strange was there's a lot of dumb dialogue, and okay, so first of all. One of the stupidest lines, I hated how Batman even says in this one, there's 6, not 5. Like when he's talking about bringing back Superman, there had never been 6 at that point. Like they're talking about getting the Justice League together for the first time. That only makes sense as a viewer that cares about the Justice League and says, yeah, there is 6. Like that in universe, that makes absolutely no sense at that time. And it's like one of those like lines that it's like, sure, like it as a viewer, it may make sense, but like I do. And they tried to fix some of the dumb dialogue with the Snyder cut. There's a lot of lines that got better. Like the whole, you spoke was a lot better than you smell good. Whenever,
yeah,
but
I wrote that one down.
But they both suck. It's like one. It's lesser of two evils. Those two lines feel like voting in America to me. Like it is actually turd sandwich versus giant douche. It is not like they're not. It's not that one of the lines is good. It is just that like, all right, well, I'm gonna choose you spoke over you smell good. But they're both like, just like really. Did I not before? Like, what is going on
when
here?
I saw that in the original, I was like, what does he have a super smell? Like, is there like some superpower that like when you're, well, there's some lines where there was just a little too much there. Like the scene where they're talking about how Steppenwolf has fought, you know, hundreds of thousands of super beings or whatever. And then Batman says, I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells, he's never fought us. Stop right there. That line's great. Yeah. But no, not us united. I'm like, oh, why?
Well, because in this cut, he did fight them earlier and they weren't fighting together as a team. And that's where, and I even have in my notes here is like, is this them trying to have a theme of, you know, like togetherness or teaming, you know, something like that. It's like, I put that it's a weak theme, but it is like they met Steppenwolf one time. They were not working together as a team. However, as we see at the end, the real difference is fucking Superman. It wasn't that they worked together as a team. It's that they had fucking Superman the next time.
Yeah. They've never fought us. Now that Superman's back to life. And, and I guess the thing that bothered me about it was the not us united thing was just cheesy. Because they did a thing like that in here we go again, Marvel, where it's the two big egos. You got, you know, Captain America.
Yep.
Who, come on. He's a little arrogant. Like, a lot of people don't notice that about him. Of course he is. Tony Stark is about 3 times as arrogant.
Yep.
And he shows that. And the two of them are butting heads. It's like, oh, yeah, you're nothing without your suit or whatever. Put on the suit. Like, oh, yeah, or whatever they're doing. They put on the suit. And then something explodes. And then he looks at Tony and says, put on the suit.
Yeah, yep.
And then at this moment right there, that's when everything changes.
Yep.
But there isn't some cheesy line. It's actually a really cool dynamic between two, you know, big personalities like button heads.
There is actually a good line from one of the Marvel movies that I think even echoes that. It's Tony and Rogers talking back and forth, and I forget. Tony says, "And what if we lose?" And Roger's line is, "And we'll do that together too." And he's talking about like, I mean, really being together as a team. And it's like that was Tony's whole point is that like he's scared of losing, but it's like, yeah. And Roger's idea is like, well, yeah, we'll stand together, and even if we lose, we'll lose together. That feels just like a better way of saying like kind of what they were trying to say here.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that maybe it's because I had more time, but
Yeah.
even like hearing you talk about that line just brings a little tear to my eye. I'm like, oh yeah, Cap, you're such a good guy, and your hair's so great. You know, I even just thinking about that like makes me think like, man, I miss those days when the cultural phenomenon was,
Yeah.
have you seen the new Marvel film? Not did you get your shots? You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
I,
yeah, there is there's something in like with the Marvel movies, there is this the group that makes them were super fans growing up. There is this feeling that it is like, here are some people that have some real passion for this. They are now like, they're making fan theories that are they're canon now because they're actually working for the company. Like there's, it feels like there is some real passion there versus like, now, I mean, part of it is just me being judgmental, but a lot of the feeling that I get from the DC is more of the money. That it is like, shit, Marvel did this, they made a lot of money, we need to do this too. And I don't like, I'm sure that Zack Snyder does have passion for this. I'm not saying that, but I do not. If you were to put Zack Snyder and Kevin Feige in a room and have them talk about DC and Marvel, I feel like one of them is going to have a lot more passion for their content. And I don't think that that's a stab at one or the other. I just think that it's a fact as far as like where their priorities lie and what they care about as far as media.
yeah, I think that is it. You know what? I always say the guy's name right. Joss. Is it is it Whedon or
Wheaton,
Whedon?
Wheaton.
Okay, like Joss Whedon. Like when I I look at the version of the movie he did, I feel like it's like an episode that you guys will actually see at some point that we pre-recorded.
Yep.
Our friend Craig was on with us, and he said something about um, we were talking about these movies, about the DC movies, particularly Batman v Superman. And one of the things that Craig said was it's an action film, but uh, it's not. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's
These are
it's
not
a
action films
film with
because
action in it.
right.
Yeah.
And I feel like when Joss Whedon did this film the first time, he was thinking, "Oh, it's just a superhero movie. What do they really need? Do we
Yeah.
really need to develop these characters?" And it was all just like bump, 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 one thing after another.
Yep.
No development, nothing interesting, no story, no. I'm not, and I'm just talking about character development, plot development, anything. Like everything was just sorry, Joss, garbage. It was garbage. And these characters are something that people care about. These are our Hercules. These are our Odysseus. Like these are our heroes.
Yep.
These are the archetype of like something to strive for. Like which sounds a whole lot like the speech that one of Superman's dads gives him. But like these are characters that deserve something more than just some fucking action film. And I think that that's what Joss Whedon did, and I think that's the reason why everybody got so pissed off about it. And I agree with you. I'm sure Zack Snyder is not some super freak like fan about all these characters, but I think he understands that other people are.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I feel like he had more respect for the art form for the characters than Joss Whedon did in making his version.
But the interesting thing is, though, I think a lot of it does come down to passion because I think when you see Whedon working in the Marvel universe, that he has more passion for it. I mean, even though I think the movies that he, God damn it, it did it again. I think even though that some of the movies that he was involved with, people do consider being some of the weaker ones. Like I know, I mean, for instance, the one that he wrote and directed was the second Avengers, Age of Ultron, which people consider to be the weakest Avengers. Normally, though, normally in a trilogy, the second, it's not even a trilogy, it's a quadrilogy. But the second movie a lot of times does end up being weaker. So I don't know if that's necessarily like his fault on writing or directing, or if that's just simply the arc of the story was going to end up with a weaker movie. But I do feel like what he did in Marvel Studios, the stuff with Age of Ultron, the stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy and that stuff, like I feel like he had just more care than he did with Justice League. You know, I feel like he was brought in to kind of like put a cap on the Justice League production that was kind of going off the rails after Snyder, you know, stepped away. And I don't think that he brought the passion to it. I think that it was more just kind of a kind of brought in as a logistical, like, all right, let's get this done.
Yeah, and like I recognize that perhaps my assessment of it isn't completely fair because you do have studios to deal with,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that might have had a lot to do with it. There might have been. I remember hearing I cannot remember what band it was. He was like a older, like old school country western singer, and he made this joke about this song that was going to be a hit, but when he talked to his producer said, "Oh, well, there's a rule, you see. Like, what's that? A hit can't be more than 3.5 minutes long, or else it's not a hit."
Huh.
And he was like, "So we had to take this out and take that out," and then like none of it actually happened. I don't think it was just a joke. But I feel like it's the same thing with this film, that maybe there was a little more that Joss Whedon wanted to do that they just didn't give him the liberty to do because he didn't have some drove of pitchfork wielding fans with torches.
Possibly.
Well,
I mean, obviously, considering the whole creation of this came from Snyder having a vision that the studio would not let him do. So, I mean, of course, then I would say that the studio probably learned something from that interaction, but I doubt that then when they brought in his replacement being Whedon, they were like, oh, now, yeah, you get to do everything you want. They of course still had their, their plans of this needs to set up for this needs to do this. And that was the biggest problem Snyder had, apparently, was that he wasn't able to create the vision that he wanted. It was instead like, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z to set up for this movie and this. And that ended up, not making good product.
Yeah. And I think this is the reason why I gave those two conditions to recommending this, that either you need to kill 4 hours and no movie's long enough to do that, or you really hated the first one. Because as sad as it makes me to say this, I think it's true that maybe the only thing that makes this movie good is that the other one was so terrible.
See, I wish I could watch this without ever having seen the first one.
Me
it would
too.
be interested to
Me
know,
too.
but yeah. What else? I had a few.
But
One other thing I wanted to touch on here. What was it?
I guess to be fair,
okay.
Well, to be fair, the first time I watched it, I really didn't know or remember anything about the first one. So it really did feel like its own movie. And I really didn't realize how much better it was. Because I actually liked it the first time. I was like, that was cool. Like,
me too, yeah.
But
and the first one, I watched the Justice is Gray edition first, too, which we haven't really talked about until now. But like now on HBO Max, there are two versions of this. There is the there are three versions of Justice League on HBO Max. There is the 2017 version, and then there are two Snyder Cut versions. One of them is the normal Snyder Cut. It is just in 4:3. The other one is called Justice is Gray. It is in 4:3 and in black and white, as it says, to protect Snyder's original vision.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't that I realized how much better this was until I watched the second one. I was like, wow, that was really bad. And then I think that maybe the second time around watching this one, I thought it was even better because of the crappy one in 2017. Yeah. What were you going to say though? You said there's something you wanted to touch on.
There was, I was just scrolling through my notes. There was a few, like one of the things that this movie, and they didn't even fix this in the Snyder Cut, and that really bothered me. But the dumbest line, cringed so hard all three times watching it. One of the biggest sins in cinema is you're supposed to show us, not tell us. There is no reason to blatantly tell something when you can show it. Why the fuck does Wonder Woman need to tell the dude how the lasso works at the beginning? Where she's like, the lasso of whatever compels you to tell the truth. Like, show us that happening. I don't like that line every single time I saw that. Like literally, you can do that same scene just by you have the guy stammer or start to lie, and then the lasso glows, and then all of a sudden he starts telling the truth. Like, you don't need to have the actor just like spell out what it does. It's I don't know. That was a big pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. I'm still on the fence, man. Like, I don't know if this is just a good movie or if it's just better than the other one. And I feel the same way. I really wish that I could just watch this by itself, having never seen the other one.
But that goes back to my theory, though, is how like it's almost not fair to judge it in the same category as other film because it gets an extra like basically hour and a half, like even 3-hour movies, like in as much as I love Endgame, it's like that already is kind of borderline pushing it as far as like, I can't rate a season of Game of Thrones as a film. because it's fucking 10 hours of content. Like, that is not a film. And that's like, this is now so like I was saying earlier, it is cool that this was able to happen. I like that we live in a world now where every movie does not need to be designed for theaters. You know, like, for instance, we're seeing with television, there was a long time where every single TV show had to either be 21 minutes or 42 minutes because it had to be edited down for there to be commercials in it and everything like that. Like, we have seen with streaming platforms the change away from that, and that allows us to have cool new media that was not possible years ago. We are now seeing that with film that I think is cool. Like, you could not have a 4-hour movie go to theaters. So I think that it is neat that there is a platform out there where stuff like this can happen. But with that being said, it's like I can't just judge it on the same ground as other films because it's like it's fucking 4 hours. It is effectively 2 movies.
Yeah, I mean it really well. Yeah, and the other problem is like comparing it to Marvel again. Like, they didn't have as long to develop everything, but it is true that when you have this much of like this much more room to add content, like, it really does make the comparison completely unfair.
Yeah.
There is one theme that I wanted to touch on. One of the ways that this movie kind of tugs at the heartstrings is parents.
Yeah.
And many of us can relate to that. You have the queen, whose name I always butcher. I don't know how to say it. The Amazon. The queen, the Amazonian's queen, Hippo, whatever. Yeah. So then there's a scene where
Hip Hop Anonymous.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah, hypotenuse.
Yeah.
You see Steppenwolf trying to rile up Wonder Woman by saying, I killed your mom, or like whatever. They all beg for their lives, blah, 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 blah. You see the tape recorder with Silas, Victor's dad.
Yep.
You hear people talk a few times. Well, toward the end, Batman's parents are mentioned. That wasn't in the original, but
Clark's mother being in it quite a bit, talking to Lois, and him being buried with the picture of his father, and that being part of like his resurrection and everything. Yeah.
And then, Superman, like, kind of hearing his father's like say the things about him, that were going to make him something. And then you see Flash, visiting his dad.
Yep.
His dad, I like the fact that his dad freaks out so much more about him getting a job.
Yeah.
The second one.
Yep.
Like in this one, it's much better.
Yep.
I think that's cool. And you hear Aquaman, they say, like, if your mother were here, it would be her responsibility to follow that monster to the surface.
You know what's really interesting about what you just said, where it's like, like we were talking about, we both agree that was done a lot better in this one. The Flash scene with his father at the end. Now, that was not a reshoot. They had access to that original performance in the first one too. So it's like, it is literally just a choice of direction and a choice of editing that they went with those other takes in the first one to establish a tone that we both agree is just not as good. And so it's like, it's interesting. That's like, what was the choice being made that it's like, why were those what I would say is a subpar take used when they had something better that would I don't know. It's a lot of weird choices.
It's a very good point. And one of the things that I thought a lot was when Martha and Lois talk in the 2017 version, they're at the Daily Planet and she's working. In this one, even though it's not actually Martha, it's Martian, they're in Lois's home, and Lois hasn't gone back to work at all. I think that really makes the loss of Superman, it makes it more understandable for the audience. And I'm assuming that they filmed that with that being Martha, and later on Martian Manhunter was added.
Yes. Yep.
Using like visual effects or whatever. So they had a choice between those two also. Yep. There's a lot of scenes that I really think that they should have selected over others.
Well, it's just, there's just a totally different tone. And I think that the tone of this one is much better. And now with that being said, I don't know if you could construct the tone of this one in a shorter 2-hour format. It's like, could you make a 2-hour cut that kept this tone? Probably not. And that's probably what had to be sacrificed for that theatrical cut. But
yeah, that's also true.
And that's one thing that I'm really trying to avoid is like now I made too many comparisons between, Infinity War and this and Endgame and this and everything, but it's like I'm really trying to avoid direct comparisons between the 2017 version and this, especially comparing the filmmakers, because it's like I don't want to say that like I like Snyder's version better, but I do not think that is because Snyder is a better filmmaker. I think that it's like he was able to do what he wanted with this versus, like Joss Whedon kind of came in and filled in the slot of, all right, the studio wants me to finish this with these limitations. I'm going to have to do that. Like if like 4 years from now, we get the Whedon cut that's 8 hours long and it's his true vision, and then we get to see really what this would have been.
Yeah, I watch them give Joss Whedon another. I'm just kidding. Apparently, none of the people involved in the film really liked him very much.
Yeah,
so that would probably never happen. There's one line, and I do not know if I wrote it down or not. It's when they're talking about. Oh my God! Did I not write it down? Oh yeah. The interaction between the five about bringing Superman back.
Mm-hmm.
In the original, it's really bad.
Yeah.
And it's too literal, it's too concrete. The dialogue feels wooden and silly. There's a scene where like Ben Affleck is doing some weird hand gesture thing that just feels like I have a feeling he saw that take and didn't like it himself.
Yeah.
But the part where they're talking about, when a house burns, all it's like ashes and smoke, and anybody with a match can turn that. But then they say a mother box turns smoke into a house.
Yeah.
And then you just hear Barry go, is anyone going to say it? Like, I'm not going to say it. And then you see Victor just makes a little projection of Superman. And I think that the way that they did that conversation was so much better in this version.
Yeah.
The dialogue was trash.
Yeah.
Like
both
it was
times.
Kind of fun. It was kind of fun to watch Diana shove Bruce.
Yeah.
In the original.
That was kind of
Also, I love the headbutt contest between Wonder Woman and Superman.
Yeah.
Where she goes, and he actually has this look on his face like that actually hurt. And then he's like, I guess I gotta fly.
Yeah.
Like I just thought that was really cool that they did that. Just little things like that, like letting Diana do some kind of cooler stuff. Like, but yeah, I mean, all the dialogue leading up to the moment where they decide to bring Superman back is not great in either. Yeah. But when they get to the resolution in this one, I think it's a much cooler line.
Yeah.
It's kind of silly, but it's still a better line. And I think there's only really one more thing I want to mention.
I've got one last thing I wanted to touch on too here. I promised last time I do any sort of comparison between the two, but I can't let this go untalked too. But just like in Infinity War, a major moment has to be undone with time going backwards. Like at the end of Infinity War, like he uses the time gem to like that. It's like the whole like, and this was done after. This was only for Snyder Cut. That was not in the original one. So like that had already been done in a Marvel movie at that point. Like that does seem like it's like, all right, can we do this better? Like, can we like, let's show them how time travel is really done. Yeah, I just think so much of it is like, now, like when you're the two big dogs in town, I understand that has to happen, but it is like a lot of it was just kind of too beat for beat similar to the others. And it's like, come on, just do your own thing.
Yeah. And the answer to the question is, can they do time travel better in this specific film? The answer is no, I don't think so. But I mean, nice try, guys. Maybe do a reboot or some shit. Those are all the rage these days.
Oh God, that's exactly what we need, a Justice League reboot. You're totally right.
Yeah, like dismantle the DC verse. That's the new hashtag. Or reboot the DC computer.
Oh,
I don't know.
I'm sorry. There is one more thing I wanted to touch on before. I'm going to let you get the last one. But this is the first time we have done movies back to back with an actor in back to back weeks. I have to touch on it. I even touched on it to you. I talked about it to you in text messages. This is the first time. We had last week. We talked about Hillbilly Elegy, starring Amy Adams, and Amy Adams was in this as Lois Lane. I do think that's the first time we've had an actor as a star back to back weeks.
Yeah. And as you all know, Lois Lane is the key.
She is the key. Yep.
There is that. And Bev was sober for a while, which is good. And if you haven't seen Hillbilly Elegy, maybe, I don't know, maybe watch it, maybe don't, I don't know.
It is
We told
shorter
you
than
not
4
to.
hours. It will take less
Yeah,
time than
that's
Snyder
true.
Cut.
That's true. And the only thing I want to mention is something that's really not a huge deal at all. Were you as excited to see Deathstroke as I was?
I have to admit no. Okay, so all right. So we've brought it up many times because I'm not a DC guy. I had no idea that Deathstroke and Deadshot and Bloodsport were 3 different characters. I thought that was all the same dude.
You serious?
Yeah, so I thought the guy I thought the dude that in the first Suicide Squad, I thought that Will Smith's character was the same guy, and that's also in the new Suicide Squad. That's also Deathstroke. I now, after doing some research, I know Deathstroke because I know that it's Slade Wilson, not Wade Wilson. I know that they're kind of similar. Like he's kind of like the DC's that's not even true. He's like yeah. I do now that they're different characters, but no part of me was excited at all because I had no idea who that character was.
I thought you were gonna because a lot of people say he's just a DC Deadpool. But you see the difference between him and Deadshot and also Bloodsport, I think, is he has a sword.
Okay.
And that's really it.
I thought but doesn't Deadshot have a sword too?
I don't think Deathstroke.
Deathstroke does, right? Doesn't Deathstroke have a sword? Because he doesn't. They're even like.
Well, no, Deathstroke does have a sword. Did I say the wrong thing?
Oh, I thought Bloodsport had a sword too.
I don't think Bloodsport has a sword. I'm gonna look it up now. I don't think he does.
Okay, yeah, you might be right.
Oh no, not the Van Damme movie. Jesus.
No, I'm just seeing him with guns. Yeah, you might be right. But yeah, but not being close to DC, I did not know those were different characters. I literally thought that was all the same character. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're different, but I just also Deathstroke is missing an eye in his mask because the eye patch.
Yes. Yep.
But I could see how you could get them mixed up if you A, are more into Marvel, or B, just want to make fun of DC because it's a really easy way to make fun of them because it is weird how similar they are. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was cool. I like Deathstroke a lot. He's just a really cool kind of character, and I like the fact that it is very often that he can't figure out which side he's on. He does end up playing both sides a lot, and I do like that about him because it makes him more complex and also shows you just how self-serving Deathstroke really is. Because you see like how Slade is at the end of the movie where he's like, I don't want that fucking. Wait, we're doing what?
Yeah.
Kill who? Okay, I changed my mind.
Yeah,
I always do. Let's celebrate. Okay, well.
I was mostly
to see Deathstroke.
I was mostly just disappointed by the fact that everything I was researching in the epilogue was like, oh, that's a teaser for a movie that's not ever going to happen. Like it was like, it wasn't that I was excited to see it because it was more like realizing it's like, oh yeah, that's actually just not going to be a movie now. Like the whole, I guess that scene right there was basically the teasing of yeah, I guess in DC they call it the Injustice League. I guess like Lex Luthor has kind of like a team that he leads. It's kind of like the Dark Justice League or whatever. Like, yeah, that would be sweet if that was a movie that was made. But unfortunately, we just get like that would be like if Iron Man from 2008 was all that was released, and you got that awesome scene at the end with Samuel L. Jackson, and he shows up and he says like, I'm here about the Avengers Initiative, and there's no other movie. That would be like that. It would be like, no, I wouldn't be excited to see that. I'd be like, no, this fucking sucks. Like,
could you imagine what kind of world we would live in right now if that's what actually happened?
Dude, honestly, like as much as I hate to say it, it would probably be a better world for film because we would probably have so many less sequels and so many more original movies out. Like we would have had a whole decade of just like not like movies 8 and 9 and 10 coming out in a series and just original shit coming out. But
yeah, it'd probably be a better world for film in general.
Yeah, I hate admitting that because I enjoy them, but yeah, definitely a turn. I mean, it is. I do have to admit, like for film, it's probably been a bad thing because it is now the point where it's like film studios don't want to take risks on stuff. Movies are too fucking expensive that it's like you need to have a guaranteed hit. And it's like, all right, well, we're gonna milk the nostalgia muscle all the time. And it's like, all right, we're either gonna reboot something or release something that it's somehow ties to like someone's nostalgia. But
it's our fault for being such demanding fans. We want expensive movies.
That is true. I mean, production value is fucking great, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it leads to. It is rough when places don't want to take a risk. When everything has to just appeal to the widest audience, you don't get like it. You don't get the movie that's made for you. You get the movie that is like a C for you because it's a C for everyone. Like I miss having a movie that was like, yes, this was made for me. Like that doesn't happen anymore because they have to appeal to this wide audience.
Yeah, world's okayest movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what we get a lot of. Yeah. You ready for movie crush?
Yeah, and as I think one or both of us says every week, there's only one correct answer here.
We have said that a lot, and I wanted to not say that this week, but I again feel that. You go first. I wonder if we picked. I think we may have picked the same one. I feel like it is an obvious choice.
It seems like I think that this is one of the weeks where there really is only one correct answer. And I'm not just going to say some off the wall thing or vice versa. I mean, obviously I think that the movie crush here, it's Superman.
Oh, I disagree. We could split.
Square jawed, smooth voice, perfect hair, jacked, strongest thing in the solar system.
Yeah.
Saves the day every day with no exceptions unless there's a green glowy stone. All the other 5 extraordinary people were waiting on him to show up.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's not awesome. I'm saying, first of all, we could totally break up the couple because my movie crush is Lois Lane. So if you go for Superman and I go for Lois, we could, because all right, so I think I take everything way too literally. And with my movie crush, the way that I read that being someone that I actually want to spend time with, someone that I actually want to be around, I think that almost all of the answers for this were just way too much. All of the metahumans, I would like, what would being around Superman actually be like? I feel like that would be fucking exhausting.
It would probably be irritating, but I mean, it's a crush. It lives in a vacuum.
See, okay, and that's where I'm
just imagining Superman showing up at my window, just sweeping me up, and we're like, flying around or whatever and stuff.
See, and that's where I think that you're right, and I think that I think I may be taking it too literally because it's like, of course, my actual crush is actually Gal Gadot. I think Wonder Woman is amazing in this, but it's like,
is that how you say her name?
Yeah, it is a T. Like when I've heard her pronounce it, it does have a T. But with that being said, it's like I could not see myself actually spending time around Wonder Woman. It's like that character. It's like I'm not enough. Like that like imagine just trying to keep up with like literally a 5,000-year-old superhero. Like, so that's where it's like, I think the realism, I need to live more in the fantasy world like you and just let me have the crush without trying to think of like what are the logistics of it.
Yeah, like there's no consequences in crushdom. You can have a crush on anyone you want to. Like, I'm even like dudes, and I'm like, okay, this is a fantasy, and we're both into guys, me and Superman. Hey,
yeah. So
for Superman, I could probably figure it out.
But the reason why I went with Lois though, I did feel like I mean, because she's the key, obviously. But no,
she's the key. Yeah, there's that.
But no, I did feel like character wise. So I mean, so of course I strayed away from a lot of the like super powerful characters because I was going with the idea of like spending time with the person. But I did feel like Lois was a just good character in this. I feel like she was. I mean, we see not a lot of her, but we just see her trying to be a good person, trying to make her way through a rough situation. And just, it just like was almost nothing but redeemable. There were no situations where it was like, oh, that character sucks. So it was like, yeah, it's kind of like, it just seemed like an easy pick for me, but kind of like a non-answer, but.
And I thought about Lois. I really did. But then I was like, wait a second. I mean, come on, man. He's also in The Witcher.
Sure. I mean, yeah, Henry Cavill's a good choice. That's I can't blame you for that one. Let's do favorite line. I want to go first. I picked this line because it really stood out to me as like, this is one where I'm doing it's not funny. It is not like, I'm not trying to do a meme favorite line. This was actually just like, I thought this was a very solidly written line that is true. It resonates with the world, and I think people need to be more conscious of this, and the world would be a better place if we just realize that the humanity is like this. Well, I wouldn't count on the tribes of men. We tend to act like the doomsday clock has a snooze button. That's a good one, right? Like, we do. We totally
really
do that.
That is a really good one. Like, it's the same thing, and everybody does it in like different ways. There's like a macro version of that and a micro version of that.
Yep.
Like, I'll just smoke this cigarette. It's okay.
Yep.
Like, I'll just quit when I'm 30. Or, you know, like, yeah, I'll start that new lifestyle next week, or, you know, it'll be fine. Or like, I'll just do this cocaine this one time, or, you know what, just chuck that non-biodegradable piece of plastic out the window. It'll be fine. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
we
a
never
good one.
realize until it's too late. Yep.
Wow, that really is good. That was a good pick, man. Yeah, mine's gonna suck now. I picked this one because it's one of the few serious moments for a not so serious character. And this one's kind of a cheat because this is the same line and there's no lines in between it, but there's a bit of space between a couple of them.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a cheat. And this also reinforces one of the themes I think really comes up a lot in the film. Just gotta go faster than the speed of light, far beyond the speed of light. You gotta break the rule, Barry. You gotta do it now. Dad, whatever happens, I want you to know your kid was one of them, Dad. One of the best of the best. Make your own future. Make your own past. It's all right now.
That was a good line. That was a good delivery too. Not bad, man. That was.
Thanks.
I like that one, dude.
Yeah,
I almost
picked at the end
because
that's like right before he touches the thing. Did
yeah,
you really?
Yes. I want to tell you why I didn't pick that line, and I wanted to touch on it when I was talking about that scene earlier and comparing it to the Infinity War scene, and this is the one moment that ruined it for me. I hated that. Okay, so in Infinity War, that mechanic is used because the super powerful bad guy literally just got 5 out of the 6 gems. He has the ability to control time. Not that we have a character part of the team that can do this the entire time, always. Flash can just do this whenever the fuck he wants. That, like, it's the problem with like DC just being OP. Like, all the characters are just way too fucking powerful. Like,
well, I mean, to be fair, it takes a lot of energy. He probably had to eat a whole lot of ramen after that.
That is true. He is a snack hole. So. But yeah, it is just like if they would have shown that there was more of a cost to it and made it seem like something more that like the throwaway line in Iron Man 2 where he's got the one big laser that he can only use once, you know, it's like, oh, but it's a one-off, you know, and like he has to like rip that piece off because it's like it's something that shows that it's like that Flash doesn't just have the ability at all times to travel back through time and fix mistakes, because it seems like at the end that it's pretty much just like pretty effortless for him. He just realizes like, oh shit, hold on, that went wrong, let's fix it.
Yep. Barry needs nerfed. Everybody needs to be nerfed.
Yeah, they all do that. Well, and that's like, honestly, that would be cool if what was set up was like, then in the second movie they run into Darkseid and he just puts them all to shame and shows them that like what you think is powerful here on Earth, there is like some like greater power in the universe. Like that would, but that's not what we got. We got one movie that just makes them all just seem like, okay, there's almost no downside. They're all just like insanely overpowered. But
yeah, it almost seems like putting them all together in a movie was a mistake.
Yeah, I know.
Dude,
so
what are we doing for next week?
I was just about to say that we haven't really, like, I think we should just you get free pick. Pull up the possible movies. What movie would you want to do from the list next week?
Okay, possibles. Let's look at this here. Ooh, is this the one I think it is? Hold on. I don't want to. I know you're in the document. I don't want to give you any hints with my cursor. Is this? Which one is this? Nope, not that one. Let's look. I'm gonna look at this one again. Um.
I'm trying to think of like who chose some of these.
It's weird that one of these is on there still. I think we should do Velvet Buzzsaw.
Okay, I'm all right. I'm down for that. So, all right, guys, next week that's the
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, who else was in that? Gyllenhaal and oh fuck, who was the other? I can't think of the other lead. Fucking Renee Russo. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh shit, Toni Collette's in this too. Oh yeah, she is. That's right. John Malkovich is in this. I forgot that. Okay.
Actually, I did too, Jill, just now. I completely forgot that. I remember Renee Russo and Toni Collette, but I totally forgot about John Malkovich.
He is at the bottom of the list on Wikipedia, so it might just be like a almost like a cameo, possibly. Like he's literally 10 names down or something, which usually the name John Malkovich sits higher than that. But,
dude, there's a really important thing I wanted to mention that I did not, and I'm just. What's that? I have to. I like the fact that Steppenwolf got decapitated at the end instead of like his parademon smelling fear.
Yeah.
That was an epic death.
Yes.
That was, yes.
Yep. That was
decapitated is the way to go.
Really well.
But, I don't know why.
However, it felt kind of anemic that whole end scene. There was like this portal and Darkseid's just standing there not doing anything. It seemed like there should have been something going on. There was like, why is he's standing there with his entire army of thousands and thousands of parademons just watching Steppenwolf get destroyed by 6 people, and unless he's scared of them, what is the point?
Maybe they can't fit the little battleships through the portal.
Maybe So then is
their other problem is that everyone's too powerful in DC. Everyone.
Yeah, maybe. Like that. Well, other than Darkseid, because apparently he needs his battleships. If he was powerful enough, he could just step through himself and smack them around.
Like that Superman.
But yeah, no, I'm excited to do Velvet Buzzsaw next week. That is, I've seen that movie once ever, and I don't remember much about it.
It's been a while. I think I saw it like last year, maybe year before, or not. I think it came out last year. I saw it just a few months after it came out. But
it said 2019, but I think it's it was actually beginning of 2019. Yeah, so it's been over 2 years at this point.
Okay, time flies. Yeah, that'll be a fun one though.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Cool.
I'm happy to have my memory refreshed.
This is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you have watched this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the discussion, then please hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Snyder Cut.
If you think that this podcast should be 2 hours shorter, or if you want to further keep up to date or even join us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description below. We will be live next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylaTV.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you guys have a great week.